All right. Hey, everyone. This is Luminar. Welcome to the first of our series, Let's Talk. So I think conversation is very important, and there are a lot of current issues going on with the games I play, the game I love, and just a lot of things I see that I feel like I kind of want to express my opinion upon. So that's why I started this whole series. Of course, the day before this, I sent out some invitations on Twitter, uh, and I didn't expect anyone to show up, and it seems like there is no one, which is okay because who am I in the community? Like I'm not a well-known person just in general. To prepare for that, I created this slide deck because it's gonna be my monologue, expressing my own idea or opinions. And yeah, let's dive right into it. So we know with Genshin Impact there has been some controversy going on regarding the skin color issues in Natlan, right? And some folks would say this is not the first time this happened. It was Sumeru last year, but this year people were more shocked because they were feeling maybe, for example, Sumeru. In Sumeru the characters were pale or more. I actually don't like to say pale. I think it's like lighter than they expected because they are tan characters. But anyway, they're lighter than expected. So they were waiting for Natlan because they think that Natlan will be inspired by African cultures, and Africa is a lot of black people. But when it came out, it surprised them because one, it's not just Africa, and two, it's still lighter than they expect. So yeah, that's where the controversy. Sorry, I cannot pronounce very well. Controversy came up. Right. So it grabbed my attention because I saw this petition. It had 70K signatures at the time of the news, but now we know that it's more than 100K, right? So a lot of people, like some friends I know, they tell me that, hey, don't worry about it. These are not necessarily players. These are not necessarily real people, even because people can just create a email account and just be done. But I feel like I still need to address this, or I want to address this, because see, if it bothers people enough that they're gonna make fake accounts or they sign this otherwise, it means that they care, right? It bothers them enough that they care, right? Because whenever I see a petition, I don't know about you, when I see a petition, I don't always sign it. Even if I agree with it, I don't necessarily sign it. So let's just say there's only like 30% of people who see it and decide to actually sign it. That's still 300,000 people. And I don't want to just dismiss what these people feel, right? And there might be more. There may be more and they just don't want to sign this, right? So yeah, a lot of people don't care, or a lot of people think this is okay, but there are also people who are bothered and they do care. So they came in and signed this. Right? So let's take a look at this real quick, right? So to start off, it says that we call on MiHoYo to stop cultural appropriation and whitewashing their games and commit to respectful and accurate representation of all cultures. So, spoiler alert, I am totally fine with this, but I'm not fine with calling it cultural appropriation and whitewashing. And I'm gonna give more reason why. But let's first finish reading this. So background, MiHoYo, the game company, has taken inspirations from indigenous cultures without proper representation and respect. In particular, many characters from Sumeru, Natlan, and Genshin Impact, from Penacony and Honkai Star are all clearly white. I actually don't know why Penacony is here. Because Penacony, I didn't think Penacony takes inspirations from areas where like there are more black people. But I don't know. Maybe I just don't know, or they put it here because Penacony was recently released this year. With the exception of some enemy NPCs, which has sparked concerns of racism among players and indigenous can't pronounce today, indigenous communities. So I think it tells half the story, right? So for somebody who doesn't have context and read this, they will be 100% saying this is whitewashing, this is racism, right? But as a player of the game, we know that they take inspirations, but they actually try to put it into a place in the game, incorporate it into the game, which is a fictional world setting, in a way that doesn't seem out of place, right? It is not realistic representation because it's a fictional world, but it's not improper all around the places. So that's, I think that background section is telling the half of the story here, right? And that kind of speaks to why I don't think it's whitewashing and cultural appropriation. But again, let's move on first. So the problem, cultural appropriation, whitewashing, perpetuate harmful stereotypes. That is true. If you have that, it is always the case. One sec. Just want to zoom in a little bit. Misrepresent cultures that contribute to ongoing marginalization and disrespect. I put a question mark on here. And I will explain. So the solution will urge MiHoYo to engage with indigenous cultural consultants. I think that's something that companies, large companies should do, or just for Chinese game companies who want to expand globally, they should keep that in mind, especially if there's cultural elements in there. Because I agree. You don't want to do it in a way that offends the people that you're taking inspirations from, because at that point you're not really taking inspirations. Because taking inspirations is a good thing. So you don't want to do a good thing in a bad way and make it a bad thing, right? Revising existing content. Sure, we'll see if they will do that. Again, personally, I'm not against it, because I don't see that it's gonna make the quality worse, right? But does it make it better? I'm not sure. There's gonna be additional investments, additional care towards it, and we all know that in Genshin Impact, the artists draw stuff, and then a lot of work goes into putting into a 3D model and then optimize it for PC, for mobile. So it's not just a change of color. It's definitely not going to be as easy as that. So we'll see. And commit to creating diverse, inclusive characters. I think they are already. They're just not doing it as these people expected, or in a way these people agree with. Okay, again, I still think there's a positive intent here. By taking inspiration, by choosing to take inspirations from all these cultures. But the outcome may not be good, and I understand that sentiment, right? And then act now, and there's a translation for all the other stuff, for all the other languages. I'm not gonna read the Chinese one, even though I can understand it, because it's actually it's not one-to-one translation, but yeah, it's overall it's good enough. And also, I don't know why it says Latin and not Nata, which is the Chinese name. So, yeah, that kind of tells me maybe the translator didn't know the CN Genshin, or they are, they're just here to help with translation, but without too much context of the game. These we will skip as well. I just assume they translated well, because why not? Right, so you see, like, they actually put in the time into making all these translations, and they just feel that just means that people care. So if you're one of the people who don't care about the issue, but don't dismiss these viewpoints, because there are a lot of who feel it, right? So that's something I want to say. So, being on Twitter, Reddit, and all the other places for a couple days, so definitely not, I don't know everything. I don't know all the views out there, but I'm just gonna talk about the patterns I've seen so far, right? So there's the camp of stop whitewashing, right? And the sentiment there is, why all white, right? Why so pale? Why are they whiter than me, right? And they think that lighter skin characters in Natlan means whitewashing equals to whitewashing and cultural appropriation and racism, in that order. And they think that if you take inspiration from the culture, you have to incorporate skin colors. And then there are some people just go off and say CN or East Asian communities are just pure racist. Right? There is a tweet I found that was a little interesting. So here it is. Somebody said they did the stats, and I actually don't know. I could not verify this. Right, so they say the CN's the CN survey happened on WeChat. I did not spend the time to actually check out that page or check out the tool. The thing is, these don't add up to 100%. So I'm not even sure if this is called most favorite Natlan characters. Maybe this is more like a poll saying, hey, who are you going to pool, right? And you see a lot of people like are very upset, CN bottom 2 are the only 2 that are tan. I mean, she is also a little tan, right? Like, she is also a little tan, but this is just more tan, this is more black, right? So anyway, so they are bothered by the fact that the more tanned 2 of them are at the bottom 2. Okay, so I think yesterday when I opened this, it was a little worse. It was just like people saying kind of mean stuff. Oh yeah, this one, right? Now everyone see why Hoyo doesn't give a thing about this skin color thing. Right. So hey, a lot of people are saying that MiHoYo is not gonna change it because CN or JP or East Asian communities don't care. They could still change it, right? To the point of that, like people don't care or people don't buy. People don't buy might be like kind of a practical reason, but people don't care is not really a reason for not doing something, right? Or yeah, it could be that they don't do anything, but they could also do something because again they don't care. Anyway, my point is, look at the sample size here. This is a okay sample size, but 23K is also not a lot of people, right? So I say okay, but with a grain of salt. But look at the sample size here on the left. That's only 3.9 thousand people. If that's, I don't think that's reflective of the whole community here. If that's like a huge percentage of the entire community, I'll be surprised because I thought more people play Genshin Impact or care about Genshin Impact in general, right? And even in this case, right? These 2 are not that high anyway. These 2 are not that high anyway. You still have like what you consider like pale skin characters ranking higher than them, right? So what's the thing? Like this doesn't show up on the right because this is not a pollable character, which is why I think the poll on the right was, who is it you're going to poll? You're going to pull when Natlan is released, because this character is not there. Because we all know this is kind of the 2D mascot thing or whatever, right? So if you exclude that, this is bottom 2 as well. This is bottom 2 as well. She may be out of favor in the EN community or global community because too pale, I don't know. Right? So under the context that people want to see more POC representation, it's only natural that she falls out of favor, right? If without the context, without the controversy going on, maybe she will rank higher. You don't know. Then you're looking at what, bottom 3, and I kind of see her being a little bit tan, just lightly tan. So like your bottom 3 is also 10 characters anyway, right? Same as this. It's just a different order. And with the sample size being higher, you don't know. Do you really like maybe these numbers will kind of diverge a little bit more, right? Because at least from what I'm seeing, this is 51%. This is 15. There's 3x differences here. I don't think just boosting the sample size is gonna make them all equal, right? And you want them to be kind of equal, right? At the end of the day. Anyway, coming back to this, so yeah, a lot of people just think that CN is just doesn't like black people, doesn't like tan characters. They say this is racist, colorism, and things like that. And then there's the other side who defend the work of art here, right? It's just a game, right? So they say this is fictional, therefore not fully aligning with reality is acceptable. There's no obligation, which I agree. There's no obligation to align with reality. And they also point out that there are white people, pale skin color people in the regions London is taking inspiration from. Personally, I'm not knowledgeable. I'm kind of just taking their word for it. They did have this handy little picture. Actually, I didn't save it. They had this handy picture that they post somewhere just to show that, hey, these LATM, like Latin America, has different variety of skin colors. So what the heck? And then also people say MiHoYo has demonstrated enough effort to respect appropriate cultures in other aspects, the food, the culture symbols, and things like that, and the music, right? And music of Sumru was definitely the best, like one of the best music I listened to when I played the game, right? That's when I feel like it was the peak. Part of it is because I don't listen to those kind of music, so it's kind of exalted to me. But it's just in general, like looking at the watching the video of that concert thing or the teaser thing, just show me all these instruments that I will never know about if not for Genshin putting it into the music. So now I'm gonna go into my take, right? So first, let's address the elephant in the room. So being fiction is not equal to free to annoy people, right? It doesn't give you a free pass of doing that. You're still creating art. Your ultimate goal is to have people appreciate, not to have people be annoyed, right? And I definitely agree that if you take other people's culture as inspirations and they don't like the way you take it, you should fix it, right? So now the question is how much annoyance does the community feel in this case? It's hard to tell on Twitter because Twitter are full of angry people. But in principle, I agree. If the group of people who you take inspiration from don't like the way you do it, you should fix it. Because again, your point is not to annoy them. Your point is to actually respect them and appreciate them. So why don't do that? Why don't you do that, right? However, what I'm not saying here is being fictional must represent the realistic world in a realistic way. I just don't agree to that, right? Because Genshin is building a new world. I'm gonna get into that in a second. Genshin is creating a fictional world. They take pieces from real world into it. So it's ultimately up to them. It's not like they take something into the real world and transform it into a fictional world. Okay. We can argue where the line falls, but I like to think of it as the first one. But let's get into that in a second. But the thing I want to say to people who sign that petition is there is no need for the name calling. The name calling of whitewashing, colorism, racism, and things like that. Okay? The way I see this whole incident is that this controversy stems from a collision of different cultures. It's essentially culture shock. Okay, but when you call something whitewashing, there's a connotation that I don't think fits into the picture, right? I think it's oversimplifying and minimizing the complexity of the current issue. Why? Because whitewashing is mostly, or that term is, when that term was developed, it was in the context of a group of people who are privileged. They take some culture of the minorities and they just swap out the color, right? They did it because they dismiss those minority groups, right? So there is a, I would say, kind of a, if I may, it's kind of like an evil intent that's baked into the whitewashing. Okay. Well, you could say, in your point of view, that negligence of the skin color from the element picking is some kind of, deficiency. I will agree with that. It's lack of doing something, but I wouldn't agree that did it on purpose or with an intent to dismiss. Okay. So if you call it whitewashing, it's kind of saying that, hey, these people are, the companies or the players are actively seeking to dismiss this culture, which I don't think MiHoYo is doing, because if they just wanted to do that, they can just not take the culture into the game, right? That's what really draws the line for me. Is that they really don't care about these people. They don't have to put it into the game. That's different than, for example, somebody making a documentary and changing the color or the race of the person. They're actually doing the documentary. Like you're supposed to be accurate, right? And then there's the group of people who like just call C and East Asian people racist. That is self-stereotyping, right? And it's not acknowledging where the other side is coming from. So at the end of the day, you're just gonna get people being defensive, right? That's why there's a lot of fighting on Twitter. People would have agreed on so many things, but because of this name calling or saying the other side is evil, it causes the other side to become defensive and doesn't listen to you. At the end of the day, you're just slowing down the progress. You're slowing down the progress of people acknowledging that, hey, maybe we should have a variety of skin color or more variety of skin color, right? And for those of the people who react like, hey, so why is it all white? I'm like super confused. It's not like it just put all of these characters together, right? So, oh, let me turn on the pointer here. Almost black, tanned, some more tanned, right? This is white, I agree. This is light, a little bit tanned, right? And people have a lot of problem with him because they think he should be back. Okay, let's maybe to their point. Let's say that's right. But this is not purely pale. So let's count the pale ones. 1 pale, 2 pale, maybe pale. This is kind of Asian color. Tanned, more tanned, very tanned. Okay, so I don't see why people complain like, hey, it's all white. The lighting may seem that way in the posters, but if you look at if you look at this, or I don't know when the game comes out, what it will look like, but at least some people post like leak image. Don't watch leak. I just happened to run into it because I was looking into the subject. Well, I wouldn't watch leaks otherwise. You do you. But yeah, so I just don't think that Hoyoverse is actually trying to put everything on white. Right? Now, specifically why I don't think this is Yeah. Why I don't think this is whitewashing. All right. Double negations. All right. Because I think with whitewashing, a discriminatory intent must exist. And I don't think so. I don't think there is one. Right? If you say something is whitewashing, that means it should have been another color. But that assumption doesn't necessarily hold because this is a fictional game. Right? Sorry, there's a lot of text. But let me just illustrate this with my description. Typical whitewashing involves taking something that already exists and switch out the race because of their dismissal, right? In other words, you kind of like do more to whitewash something, right? On the other hand, Genshin Impact is building a fictional world using an anime fantasy art style, and if you know what I'm talking about, by default, characters that are commonly associated with this kind of art style is on the whiter side. Why? Because anime, like the Japanese anime at least, was developed in Japan, where people are Asian and like they draw arts on a little bit of a lighter side. So it is the default of lighter skin comes with anime art style. And because Genshin Impact is a game that takes this art style, by default, they would use lighter skin. So in order to... So when the default is already lighter skin, and you want to introduce tan or even black people, you're doing more, right? You have to do more to add that color, right? So this whole disagreement with the color of skin is basically just saying that they didn't do enough to darken the skin and things like that, right? It's very easy to say somebody who spend more effort to make something bad has evil intent. But you can't necessarily say it for someone who didn't do enough. Because maybe they just didn't have the bandwidth, meaning time or resources. They didn't have the support, because again, that's where they sell their stuff. Or they didn't have the capability. For example, if you've been drawing lighter skin characters all your life, you may be not good with darker skin characters. And being where MiHoYo is, you don't want to be too experimental that you fail. Right? One is you fail and then people don't pay to roll. Two is if you make a dark skin character, it doesn't look nice. Maybe the community that's backing the black skin color characters will still blame you for why is this character not doing great. So there's just a lot of context here, and that's why I don't think why it should be just by default whitewashing, because whitewashing is very particular behavior that stem from slavery, stem from dominance over the other culture. This one, it isn't. Like, we're all learning, in a way. We're all learning about these cultures now. We're learning means we definitely don't know enough, but it also doesn't mean that whenever we miss something, we did so on purpose or did so with the evil intent. Right? On the other hand, Genshin is building this world, right? So by building this world, they're doing art. And I think inherently there should be a respect that the artists have a right to decide and prioritize among the things they want to add to their creation or how they want to express it. So we should give a basic level of freedom and space to create. Which is why I also think like this moral name calling is shrinking the space. Because more moral like virtual, I don't want to say virtual signaling, but like these kind of criticisms are not constructive in nature. They are there to kind of diminish the other side. They themselves don't offer solutions. They only raise problems. And after you raise enough of these problems, that just means people won't innovate as much. Because if they innovate, they'll just get hit in the head. So why create? Right? Now that's not to say we don't voice our feedback, but what I'm saying is feedback is not the same of threats and boycotts of cancellation. We can cause change constructively rather than destructively. You can add more POC representation into the community or ask for addition of that into the game itself. But you don't have to do it while calling it whitewashing, because that's just going to make it really hard to take your feedback. Because if they take the feedback, that's acknowledging or accepting these allegations. And nobody wants to think of themselves as evil. Like even if they want to, their PR specialist is not going to allow them to. Right? So going back, again, no need for name calling. And also, just for the people who say like CN or East Asian are racist inherently, here's what I have to say. What I want to say, sorry. So let's admit there is a prevalence of lighter skins in the East Asian range of cultures. Okay? But it doesn't stem from white supremacy or feeling that they dominate over some other people. It came from the fact that there was very arduous labors back in the days for thousands of years. People work on their lands or do other stuff without modern machinery. So all of this labor is hard, intensive, or even dangerous. You might get yourself killed in the process, right? It's not gonna be something that can be taken for granted. So inherently, yeah, people call it elitist, whatever, but there is a wish for a life without such arduous labor, right? Like the prosperity that's baked into it. So people think that if you can have lighter skin, that means you're more well off. And if you're more well off, we pay you more respect. So personally, I don't think we should be ashamed of that, because it rises naturally. It is logical, and why should I feel ashamed of it? Right? It doesn't mean that these beauty standards don't need to evolve. It should. People are alive. People are alive. And these things are changing day by day. Yeah, you will see a lot of CN or East Asian people say mean stuff, but that's on a micro level. On a macro level, I see changes. Right? So there's an example I allure to a lot. Right? Sorry, I just saw chat. What's your AR? 60. I don't know if you're still watching this. Maybe not. The max. Anyway, sorry for missing the chat. I was looking at the slides too closely. Yeah, it doesn't mean these beauty standards don't evolve. It just means that there's nothing to be ashamed of from where we are right now. And let's look towards the future and make it better. And the example I'm taking is like when Genshin just launched. You know, on Bilibili, you can put 4 versions of video under the same post, like a video post. And there's always the CN, JP, EN, Korean dubs. In the beginning, the Korean dubs always get a lot of racism under it, because maybe at that time there was some current issues going on between China and Korea, so people are just hostile. But it was concerning to me, and I raised it with to my friends and etc. And people kind of like, hey, just people on the internet. But I agree, that was concerning behavior. But maybe a year or something like that, when Genshin really got steam, a lot of people go into the game. Because initially people in CN was like, hey, this is just a Zelda ripoff. Let's not play this. But eventually a lot of people change their mind and start playing the game. So on those videos, yeah, you still see people being racist against Korean people on the Korean dub version. But you start to see people who fight back. Like you start to see people who say like, yeah, why do you do this? If you don't like it, just go away. Why like this is very like you kind of lose dignity by saying what you just said, right? So now when we go to those Korean dub videos, the racist comments are actually very few now. It's not zero, let's be honest, but it's very few now. A lot of people are just they're enjoying the voice acting, praising it, and things like that. So I think changes are going to happen. But at the same time, don't minimize the status quo in this group of people, because that's going to stop your message from delivering to them. And you're kind of practicing the dismissal of a certain group of people, which I don't want to call racism yet. But just be aware that it might have damaging side effects. So, all in all, I think it's a clash of cultures, right? You have like the player base who have been Asian all this time. They've only seen Asian people a lot. That their friends, their families, their colleagues are all Asian. Like the concept of POC is new to them. And also, POC representation is not just about skin color. If you really want to be realistic, the shape of the face, the bone structure, all different. Like these are all new, right? There is a saying in Chinese like if you don't know something, it's not a crime. And of course, it doesn't apply universally. But basically, what I'm saying is, like these people don't know or are not familiar with like the concept of people of colors. So if right now they don't understand the importance of having the respect or showing the racial qualities, equalities and things like that, there needs to be a certain level of tolerance, because these people just need more education. These people need more education. They're not here to just be bad people. Okay? If you realize that, you will understand that, yeah, just personally, I don't feel like being dismissed like that. Right? So Genshin Impact takes a game art style which came from the culture that wasn't familiar with POC representation, all these current issues. I say racially homogeneous, but that's not accurate. I think it's like, oops, my bad. Somewhat. So by somewhat, I'm saying that because there are definitely different ethnicities, minorities, but they all look similar. They all look similar, so they don't have that much of experience of dealing with these, right? So it is the clash between of again the culture who are only used to Asian complexions and having the beauty standard of preferring lighter skins, clashing with a more internal the globalist view of the world where, hey, there's different people with different looks. We should give a representation in all that looks, right? In all the variety of looks. It's really just a clash of that. And I think there's definitely going to be a way to reconcile between them, right? So don't make it sound like one side is more evil than the other. It's really not. And please, as lovers of Genshin Impact who want it to be better, our goals align there. Okay, if you're really a truly hater, you probably won't care about this issue anyway because you're just gonna hate, right? So, and some good news to you, CN and East Asian people, player base, they can accept darker skins, right? Here's somebody who did a little bit of a review of research onto Bilibili. And they did that because they saw some other user post something like CN doesn't support this movement completely. But he did some research and found out that there are people who actually do sympathize with the movement. You could even say I'm like somewhat empathize with the sentiment there, right? So they are comments like this, right? There are comments like this. Sorry, comments like this. So people who think the darker skin look good, there's no question that dark colored skins can look good, at least from my point of view. But if you approach these people and say that let's stop whitewashing, the company is whitewashing, this company is evil, that support is immediately lost. Right? Because that's two issues. One is, as an artist, you didn't do a good enough job. The other is, as a company, you are trying to do evil stuff. And because a lot of CN players, because this is a CN company, so a lot of CN players will kind of associate themselves to the company, me included. And you're kind of just saying that, you know, kind of our baby is being very evil. And of course, we'll get defensive like that. And even there are people who just say CN is racist. Then that's a direct attack that I wouldn't find very agreeable to. So here's what I ask. I ask that we focus on improvements rather than we focus on improvements without the negativity, right? So focus on what you can change or what you want changed, but not coming up with all sorts of allegations and terms and moral crimes to describe the status quo, right? Describe the thing, but not try to generalize it. Or, I mean, generalize it with the moral accusations, moral accusations. Acknowledge there is a legitimacy of the other side and build common ground. And I don't think I need to say this, but I think we should realize that the other side believes what they say. So if you want them to change their mind, you don't go in and say they're wrong. You need to acknowledge what's the right part that they have and point out the things that they may have missed. Okay. Now, of course, there are people who just still don't listen to that, but hey, you're not talking to one person. You're talking to a group of people. Those are the people who stay quiet. They're probably thinking. So you want to reinforce that if you're really about driving a change. And speaking of driving the change, you can help drive the change, right? Well, the first one I put it there because a lot of people will just laugh at it. But maybe try working for miHoYo and make the change from inside. Don't make it like this is the other company, the other side. Why make it the other side? Own the problem, solve the problem, if you're capable. It takes a lot of drive, it takes a lot of capabilities to be able to pull it off. But if you can, my not just appreciation, my admiration goes to you, right? Of course, That will be very few of people in this world that can do that in terms of global population. So the next thing might be easier. You create art, create a work that's more inclusive. Do them, spread them, make them good, so that you will have the other side see, especially those doubters who think that darker skin don't look good, demonstrate to them that it will look good. And if you cannot create the art, like myself, I don't draw, I don't paint, I don't do 3D modeling, support the art. And I will be happy to repost those arts that have that are inclusive and good. Okay, that's the point. You want it to be good, so you are gonna convince the other side. And that, I'm not saying like the ones that are out there are not good. I'm just saying, just in terms of approach, I personally want to support that and spread it. I have no problem with that, right? And lastly, if you're just commenting on Twitter or all these online forums, social media, drive conversations and not divisions. Don't say things that are purely divisive. Just giving names, just saying you are whitewashing, you're racist, it's not gonna solve any problem. Point out what's missing. Point out why it makes things not good, but don't just say it's bad. Say why is it not good. Say what can be changed, right? Try to build that common ground. And that's part of the thing I'm doing with this video or live stream I'm doing. Right? So lastly, I'm just gonna go through my petition, which is more like, I say counter petition, but it was more like an answer to that petition. Right? So I begin with saying that there is an artistic freedom components to this. And I would like to have the other side consider their approach in making constructive impact without misguided accusations. Right, so background, I'm not going into too much, pointed out the other link to the other petition. Let's also realize that, when there's a boycott or there's a lot of hate towards the game, sometimes that hate get transferred to voice actor actresses or people who work on the projects who really don't have a say into this. And I don't know if that's why a lot of young VAs kind of came out and voice support for the movement, because they don't want to be associated with those allegations. See, I personally, I'm fine with that. But I'm just saying, when you call names, do understand that it may impact real people, and rather than just a company or the people who you are targeting. So let's be clear, Genshin Impact is fictional. It's very clear since day one that that is an intent, so they don't have to recreate the real world with pixel perfect accuracy. And because they are creating a world from scratch, they should be free to make the choice of picking what they think is good. And they shouldn't be doing that while fearing these moral accusations. Okay, they definitely need to think about that, but they shouldn't be fearing that, right? Because a lot of accusations is gonna hit people mentally, right? So we don't own the choices the artists make, and therefore should not be self-righteous about some choices that we will make and the artist didn't. Again, if you're here to ask for respect, you need to give them respect as well. Give the artist respect, think of them as your equal, and then give your feedback. And you will realize you don't say a lot of these moral accusations anymore, because you wouldn't appreciate that yourself. Therefore, the lack of dark skin tones are not automatic whitewashing. And here I'm just taking some example that Genshin Impact actually care about cultures, and incorporates it pretty well into the game. And that just shows that there wasn't an evil intent at the work of the perceived whitewashing, but rather I would say just the difference of expectations of the color range, skin color range, right? So we shouldn't minimize the cultural representation to just implementing a range of skin colors. Now you could argue that you should have skin colors to be called cultural representation. But I'm just saying it shouldn't be the other way. It shouldn't be that skin color first, everything else doesn't matter. It should be everything is important, including skin colors, which is a position I'm willing to take. But a lot of people are so minimizing the problem to just skin colors, and just based off of that, calling it cultural appropriation. I say, let's not minimize the cultures. Cultures, not just skin colors. Culture develop because ordinary people get together, they unify, they work through the challenges of life, while still managing to make life extraordinary. They build arts, they build music, they build cities, all that stuff. So in a way, Genshin Impact is already a culture of its own. And while no culture is perfect, but we, as the participants in this culture, we can make a positive impact together. So a little bit repeating of my points, but the way I think we can do it is, one, respect the people who work on Genshin Impact already. Respect that they have trade-offs to make. Don't automatically call lack of something a crime, because maybe they're just not good at it, or maybe they just didn't think of it. It was an honest mistake. Well, you say that because Sumeru had an issue, so they should have known. They should have known better. Maybe they know better, but still, you're assuming that the moment you say something, those points hit. Maybe it didn't hit. Maybe it didn't hit the way you want. Again, there are 10 characters in Natlan that has been released or has been teased. I could, in a way, you could argue that is listening to the feedback already. It is already more tan than white, right? I mean, even Sumeru, there's 10 characters, right? So you cannot just come in with the expectation that there is like just because you tell the company to have more dark colors, it's gonna be black people all around the place. Right? You gotta keep doing, in a way, you gotta keep doing. You're gonna make sure that you set expectations with them. And of course, it's gonna be hard, and nothing is easy, really. If you think something is gonna be easy, think again. But my point is, you can ask for the skin tone representation or other representations, really, without accusing, hating, or even harassing the people who made this game a reality in the first place. And of course, here's another way to advocate the culture that you want to advocate. But you don't have to do it inside Genshin Impact community. You don't have to do it inside Genshin Impact. See, your point is to advocate these cultures around the world. Not everybody plays Genshin Impact. But you can leverage Genshin Impact to grab attention. Start off with what Genshin has and move on to introduce what Genshin hasn't. Just like a lot of people are already doing. And that's one way that you can achieve your goal of higher representation without even dealing with or directly dealing with Genshin Impact as a whole. Right? And lastly, if MiHoYo does not or cannot make everything work for everyone, it is still fine. We have a doujin culture. We can fill in the gaps with our own creativity. MiHoYo is relatively open to fan-made contents. Create content, support contents, make them so good that they're featured on the next Genshin concert. Just saying. Maybe. The Genshin Impact culture is not limited to just a game binary and what you see from the official stuff. We have a community. You can influence others and maybe MiHoYo directly in a positive way. And I want us to think about how we can build a better culture together. So it has been a long talk of myself. I really appreciate you watching it this far. And let's remember that hating other people is easy and loving is harder. So don't settle with just what is easy. Do the hard thing and make the world a better place. And that's something I hope we can all agree on. And that being said, if you agree with what I said, please sign to support a more constructive engagement for change. And I definitely hope there are positive changes coming down the line. There's no denying that. But I also hope people will do this in a more friendly way, constructively, and things like that. All the good things I've discussed. Again, this is Nominar. This is first of our Let's Talk series. And I'll hope to see you next time. Bye.